Welcome to Truth and Transcendence. You can find all our other episodes on truthandtranscendence.com. Today, I'm delighted to welcome to the show Laura Giles, who's here today to talk about a lot of things, but we're going to start by talking about listening to the rhythm of the soul. So if you immediately thought, oh, I know what that means, or I don't know what that means, guaranteed what you think it means is going to be different in some way from how Laura has a take on it or how I do. So this is a really individual, personal thing, listening to the rhythm of the soul, but it's also a universal thing that's real and relevant for all of us. So I think this will be a really interesting conversation. Laura has spent over 20 years helping trauma survivors live unfettered, authentic lives. With experience in a maximum security prison, psychiatric hospital, courts, and private practice, she has guided even the most, in quotes, hard to help individuals toward healing quickly and naturally. Wow. Okay, so raised by an animist mother, Laura brings a grounded spiritual perspective to her work, making deep transformation both practical and accessible. If you're ready to live well and die well, Laura Giles is your girl. Well, can't argue with that. Fantastic. And you can find Laura at Linktree. Now, Linktree is linktr.ee/Laura Giles, LauraGiles. And that's where you'll find her multiple links and bits and pieces. So, Laura, thank you so much for coming on the show.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Excellent. So, would you like to start by telling us a bit about this phrase, listening to the rhythm of the soul? You were explaining to me when we met before that this is something that you can remember being connected to right from very early on in your life. Could you give us an idea of your earliest connection that you can remember of listening to the rhythm of the soul?
Well, I think we all grow up with the ability to do that, and then it's taught out of us. And so because my mom's animist, um, it really wasn't. And it wasn't until I came in touch with people who weren't doing that that I realized, oh, this is different. Oh, you're having a different experience of the world than I am. And I think it's more organic because we're all born into it. It's just listening and being present with everything and everyone. And I think maybe the first time that I realized there were a couple of times when I was little. Um, kids like to entertain themselves and hum and do things, sing and dance and prance around. And then we're all taught, be still, be quiet, stop doing that. And then we just kind of get stiff. Well, I was walking down the street one day, just totally involved in my own joy, and a guy was coming towards me on the sidewalk, and he was looking at me like it was just the strangest thing. And I'm a little kid; kids are supposed to do that. And that was one of the times that I was just like, "What's going on with him? What is strange about this situation?" And then there were other times with my mom when we were. I mean, it could be anything, just digging in the garden and either planting something or harvesting something. And she would say things that just were really connecting and really resonating that I didn't see in the general population. And those kinds of things stuck with me like, okay, this is a pearl. I have to hold on to this. And they were really, really nothing special. It's just the world as it is. And so when I'm talking about listening to the rhythm of your soul, that's what I'm talking about. It's being in that energy of your birthright, that thing that we're born into, and just holding on to that naturalness that we all have. And if you lost it early, then trying to reconnect in that. And I think it's available in lots of different ways. You could just be hanging out in the natural water and just feeling the water flow around you and just dip into that quality of that and something clicks and you're just like, oh my God, I'm water. I'm part of this. Or the way that the sun is shining on your skin and it just feels so delicious and natural and you just kind of connect with it in some kind of way. And that something happens, I think that's beyond words that just opens up something in you and then it's gone. So I think if you want to have that, then you have to practice it. You have to touch base with it on a regular basis. And then when you do that, it just becomes more natural.
That's so beautiful. It reminds me of there's a stream at the bottom of the field round behind my house, and it's just a very small stream. It's nothing, no big deal. It's not a river, but there's something magical about it. When I go close to it, I have to stop and just look at it for a while. And something does open within me, and something also calms down, I find.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's like an opening and a calming at the same time.
Hmm. Hmm.
That's you're nodding, so that sounds like that resonates with what you've been talking about.
Yeah, I think that's the essence of who we are. I mean, nature doesn't hurry. It's not frenetic. It is what it is, and that's enough. And I think when we touch, however we touch that thing, we become like that too, because that's who we are.
Right. Okay, so it meets something that is already present in us.
Yes,
Also,
absolutely.
that's a lovely thought, isn't it? Because that takes away any idea, well, you've got to change in order to.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, you don't have to be anything different than you are right now. Your past doesn't have to be different. You don't have to make any more money. You don't have to lose any weight. You don't have to do anything. It's always available.
So it sounds like you had a really great beginning in regard to what we're talking about here, in terms of who your mother was and the way that she was with you. Would you be willing to share a bit more about that for those of us particularly who haven't had that same beginning?
Yeah, my mom is surprising. She is such a I still am just inspired by her all the time because she's unexpected things, because she just comes from a really different life. And she was natural. Everything around her is natural. She's from a culture that was very minimally colonized, and she lived in a village where everybody was connected. There are still rituals and these are things that the community did seasonally and things like that. So this living in America is a really different situation. So every now and then she'll say some things that come from there. I'm just like, wow, you know. But it's even in the little things about generosity. She is not one of the, she is the most generous person that I've ever seen. And she came from nothing. I mean, you can't even imagine what nothing means. Uh, Whatever that is, times it by 10, and that's what she came from. And it's just because she's generous because she knows what it's like to not have. And she knows what it means when somebody shares with you. And so there are values like generosity, like reciprocity, that is it's just in her bones. It's not something that she thinks about. It's not something that she has to think, well, what would be the fair thing? She never does that. It's just so automatic. Her heart is so open. And I've never seen her she gets mad, don't get me wrong, but I've never seen her hold it. It's just she's the most in the moment person that I have ever seen, ever. And she always finds her center. It doesn't matter what's going on. She'll have flashes of anger and then she finds her center. She does the thing, and then she finds her center. So she's always been an amazing role model for me for so many things. And I've never seen her really judge people. I could have been anything, and I would always been her daughter. I would always belong to her. I'd always belong to the ancestors, the family, and whatever gifts I bring to that, whatever negative things I bring to that, it doesn't take away from the sense of belonging. So that's the kind of thing that I want to walk with always, because do have such an amazing example. And I'm not putting her on a pedestal. She's not a perfect person, but this is what shines through about her.
Wow, I love her already. She sounds really amazing. So what was it like being her child? Was it just was it like, this is great, this has got this great role model I can follow, or were there times when it was difficult having a mother like that? What was it actually like?
No, it was really peaceful, actually, because I felt like I had the permission to do and be anything, really do and be anything. I never felt like I had to do anything. And being in the moment when you're a kid, we did a lot of playing. We were outside all the time. I'm from the, don't come in house until the streetlights are on age group. And so we had a lot of freedom and then we explored and we had our feet in the earth and all of these things. And there was permission to do that. And and she was the kind of person who, and I strive to be this kind of person in all aspects too, is that she's going to trust me. She left me alone to do my thing. And then if I needed her, she was there. She didn't hover. She didn't judge. She wasn't actively guiding. And so when I work with people as a mentor too, they say, I want to do this thing. And I'm thinking to myself, ooh, that's a interesting road you're choosing. But I don't say that. I'm like, is that what your heart is telling you to do? Okay, do that. And then that actually creates faster change because now they commit to it, they do it wholeheartedly, and now they can see why that's not a great path. So they've done the thing, they've made the mistakes, then they're correcting themselves. That's what it was like to be her daughter. And my dad was kind of, he didn't really get involved in discipline or anything like that unless he was asked to. So, which I appreciated. But if dad was involved, it was like, okay, now you're really in trouble. But that didn't happen too often.
That's what you're telling us now.
No, it really didn't. My dad is really cool too. He really is.
Fantastic. That's so great. I mean, I think that what's coming across in what you're saying and the way you're saying it is this whole notion of being in touch with the rhythm of the soul being a natural, automatic thing that you're born,
Absolutely. Yes.
and that you were blessed with an environment where everyone was connected into that,
Yes.
so that you were basically just encouraged to go with that.
Yes. And I think that when we do that, our lives are better. We're more authentically ourselves, and then we're able to share our gifts more rather than our pain more because we do have a choice. Which face are you going to show? And because I had that freedom and that trust, I didn't want to betray my parents' trust by doing the wrong thing. Now, don't get me wrong, I did some sneaky little things. But it was like I said, you have that experience of doing it. I didn't make the same mistake twice
Yeah.
because I was so mindful of it the first time.
Yeah, because you were allowed to be responsible for your own
Yes.
without it.
Yes.
So it was interesting when you said that she didn't hover and she would let you do what you needed to do. And you now feel you can do that with your clients. You don't
Hmm.
have this sense of, I've got to protect them from doing something really disastrous. Now that's an interesting capacity for somebody to have. And from my observation of, parents in general, most parents find that, I think many parents actually would disagree with doing that, in fact. And even the ones that would agree with it, a lot of them would find it very difficult to do because of their fear of
Hmm.
what's going to happen to the child. So, do you have any insight into how it was that she, and actually you now, have that capacity to allow in that way and not be run by the drive to protect the person or the fear or any of those things?
Well, I think one thing is it's about instilling a sense of trust and responsibility in the person. If they don't have the freedom to do that, then that's never going to happen. But two, my view of people and of things is that you're never alone. I'm never alone. I have my ancestors behind me. There's a lot of help available to me. So I don't think any real danger is going to happen because I trust that. And fortunately, fingers crossed, knock wood, whatever, it never really did. So not to say that I didn't get into any trouble, but it wasn't anything that was, nothing that I couldn't come back from. And I think she had that too. My mom had a really adventurous life. I can't even, when she tells her stories, I can't even imagine the things that she did and how young she was when she was doing them. But it is like she walks around with this bubble of protection around her. And I'm honestly the same way. It's a different context because we live in a different country, different time, different culture, but it has been the same way. And I don't think that there's anything magical about that. It's just about being in touch with that energy that we all carry.
Yeah.
Um, in some traditions, they call it mana. If you have mana, you have power, and there's all these things that are protecting you that are invisible, but other people see it too. It not visually, but they feel it and they sense it, and so they're going to respond to you differently.
Yes. And so thank you. I get that completely. And so with you, her having had that and you having that, is it also your sense then that the people you work with also have that protection?
Sure. So I think we all have it. A lot of us are disconnected, but when you're working with somebody who has it, you kind of borrow theirs. So until you can tap into your own and you have your own through your own relationships, you do borrow theirs.
Right. So do you mean your clients borrow yours?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yes. So until I really cultivated my own, I got it from my parents.
I see. That
Mm-hmm.
makes sense. That's really interesting. So
Mm-hmm.
that's almost like the child coming outward when they're ready to fly on their own, but when
Yes.
before that, they're kind of held in this nest that is. So when you're working with clients, um, do you find it's like a comfortable thing for you that they are borrowing some of your manner, or does it ever feel like it's tiring or
Oh,
exhausting?
no. No, no. It's not like that at all. Um, I think some people think of energy as like this. If you, let's say you have 100 units and I give you 50 and I have 50, now I have less. But it's not like that at all. It's if I have 100 and you're borrowing it, then you also have 100.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not divisible. It's
No.
yeah.
No.
And
It's
so you,
something that flows through you. It's not really contained. So, yeah. So if it's flowing through you, through me, or through, yeah, then you have 100 too.
yeah, I get it completely. Fantastic. Well, it sounds like it's very comfortable for you. And the reason I'm asking these questions because I feel like these are the questions to sort of help those of us who are not connected in the same way to what you're talking
Mm-hmm.
about to kind of get
Mm-hmm.
some sort of sense, understanding of it. Although it sounds to me like it's a more resonant or energetic experience, more so than a rationally understood thing. Is that fair to say?
Yes, energetic, yes, intuitive too. I think that it is probably doesn't sound like it right now, but I'm actually pretty intellectual. I'm an INTJ, so everything has to make sense. But it's a systematic way of thinking. So if you put that together with the N, the intuitive or the feminine, to me it feels like a very wonderful blend of the masculine and feminine. And when they're working really well together, it is so much more holistic than being one or the other. So being emotional is really good. You know, you have a felt sense of things, but being rational is good. But if you're a person who can do both in the physical world, then I think you're more whole. And that is what the experience is like for me.
Ah, yes. So it feels integrated.
Absolutely.
Ground.
Yes.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Amazing. I love that. So I'm going to have to ask you about animism,
Hmm.
because you mentioned your mother is an animist mother, and I believe you have an animist church as well.
Yes.
So
So we started the church because honestly, so when we started the church, it was to get legal protection for people to use um plant medicine. Because you can do that. But now it's not really necessary because in a lot of places it is legal. But those that's a part of it for some people. Plants have energy, and I mean, drugs come from plants, so we know that they have healing powers, and it's just a way of being able to do that without the stigma and the legal risk of doing things.
yeah,
So
a safe container for it.
yeah. Hmm.
So would you like to have a go at explaining what animism is? I know we have
Sure.
limited time in this episode and you could probably talk for many days about it, but I'm fascinated by it and I'd love to hear a little bit more about it.
Yeah. So animism is the practice of the belief that everything is alive, connected, and sacred. It's really that simple. And it looks so many different ways, especially now in the modern world. I mean, you could be an animist and not do any rituals at all. You could be an animist and not have any connection to your ancestors, but you have real connections with trees. Or, it can look at however you want it to look, but it is an ancient practice. It goes back as far as mankind. And all of people all over the world were animists first. Before there was organized religion, there was animism. So there wasn't a word for it. It was just a state of being. It's like you don't have to announce that you're human. I don't go around telling me, "Hey, I'm human," because we know that. And everybody was an animist. And
Yeah.
then once we started getting these divisions and the hierarchies and all of that, that's when we needed a word for that. And so that was a word that came from an anthropologist. And so that's what we use now.
I understand.
Yeah.
So the tradition then that your mother and you yourself are part of, is this a tradition that has maintained all the way through since before religion, or is
Oh,
it,
yeah.
right? So it's not a revived version or
No.
like that. It's just continued all the way through.
Yes.
And
So
yeah, how
y
is it that
yeah.
that has happened? Because obviously this anthropological idea, this the whole advent of religion has swept massive proportion of humanity along with it, hasn't it? So how, you may not know this, but do you know how the animist tradition has survived in those pockets where it has?
Well, for my mom's culture in particular is geography, and I think that's probably true for most, because the terrain is very inhospitable. I mean, today it still takes 13 hours from the closest major airport to get there, and over roads that wash out, in the rainy season, and it's just the terrain is just not very navigable. And then the tribes are very hostile as well. So between the two, and they're very effective at what
Yeah.
they do. So between the two, the missionaries didn't really make inroads there.
So where is this mystical, magical place? Are you allowed to tell me?
So I prefer not to say because in
Fair
my
enough.
experience, so I have done sacred travel for over 20 years and I go all different places in the world and I have gone to see um, different cultures, and it's a thing. So back when I first started doing it, it wasn't a thing, but now there's a cultural and spiritual travel the entity. What do you call it? Like industry.
Mm.
And I find, and even when I did it, the first time I did it, I was like, oh, this feels kind of yucky. Um, and what happens is these people become dependent upon tourist dollars and it ends up destroying their culture. It erodes it in different ways because, they become dependent upon that. And fortunately, our culture does have some tourism now, but they're aware of it. So they were one of the last to be infiltrated. So they're very strict about who comes in. They're strict about what they share, and not in a um, exclusionary, you can't have this kind of way, but in a protective way. And so I don't say because every time I've ever heard of anything, there's masses of people that go there looking for whatever they're looking for, the magic, the rituals, and so I just don't want them to be exploited, so I don't say.
Fair enough. I completely respect that. I just have this sense I had to ask that question because
Yeah.
it felt like that actually feels very beautiful that you hold that sacredness for it.
Yeah.
And I'm also very heartened to hear that there are places in the world like that still,
Yes.
even now,
Absolutely.
because
Yes.
when you look at media and everything, it looks like those are all gone, which
It's not. It's not. There are pockets. There's lots of them actually. And they're small. And I think the ones that I mean, I don't blame anybody because most of them, probably all of them, are really, really poor in a way that we can't understand.
yeah.
They don't have the technology. They don't have the infrastructure. They don't have any of that. In fact, if I go to where my mom's from, there isn't a hotel, not one. You have to stay in a guest house and it's not going to be what you think it is. So, but I think there's beauty in that. I think it preserves something that's worth preserving.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hmm.
Well, I can say yes, absolutely, but I haven't tried to live somewhere like that. So I imagine if I did go and live somewhere like that, I might have a problem to begin with. But there's also,
Yeah.
I do also kind of get that attraction of that simplicity. And,
Yes.
and in many ways, it's probably easier to be in the present moment when you're not distracted by all of these stimulations.
Yes,
Yeah.
because you live with the rhythms of life. I mean, you're agricultural or you're hunting or both. And you have to know what that's like. You have to know what the weather patterns mean. You have to really pay attention or you're going to go hungry or you're going to be stuck out somewhere that's dangerous because nature is harsh. Even when I've gone on pilgrimages and you're out there walking around in the weather changes, you got to be ready for that. And you better love it because if you don't, your life is going to be miserable. So I think when you don't have the distraction of the phone ringing and answering your emails and paying your bills, then it just changes something within you and you just become really grounded and really natural and so grateful. And you realize your place in the world. And I don't mean by your status or your titles or something, but you realize your place in the universe. You realize the power of the sun and of the sea, and what a small piece of that you are. A very powerful, meaningful piece. But I mean, to me, it just erases the ego totally.
Yeah. So you obviously then chose to come out of there and come and live in more sort of relatively more mainstream world. Um, how did that decision happen? How did that take place? Because it sounds to me like just staying there might have been amazing.
Well, so I was born here.
Ah, right.
Yeah, yeah, I was born here. But I do like to travel to places that are just like that,
Yeah.
and to get away from all of this stuff to remind me and to help me to stay rooted. Because, we do live in a world where we depend on refrigeration and cell phones, and we really don't need any of that. And my life is so much better when I unplug.
Beautiful. So let me ask you a little bit about the work you're doing now with people. I can only imagine that some of what you've been talking about already does kind of come through into the work. Uh,
Absolutely.
would you like to share some more about that?
Yeah, so I work as a trauma therapist, and it found me, really. I was not doing anything remotely in that realm at all. Um, and I stumbled into a psychology class, and I'm like, "Oh my god, people actually make sense." I couldn't see the patterns before. People just looked uh, confusing. Couldn't figure people out at all because they're not natural. And so when I had a handbook for that and I could see it, it was just fascinating. So I went into psychology, and then I took the first internship that I could get, because trying to get your own internship is not easy. And I was working in trauma. So that's when I started working in the courts. And I was really struck with how disconnected and disordered people are. And when I say disordered, I'm talking about things not being in their natural place, out of balance. And I just felt like, I have something to offer here. And this is really, really important, because if your brain is not functioning well due to trauma, then that you're not going to see the world well, because trauma makes you see everything negative and everything is a threat. And how do you see the beauty in the world if that's what your brain is doing to you? How do you see the desire for connection, which is our birthright? It's how we all function in the world, if everyone's a threat. So I think trauma work is fundamental for everybody. If you want to have a full life, you've got to deal with your trauma, and we're all so cut off from our ancestors and from the land and from each other for so many generations. I don't know how humanity is going to survive if we can't find that again.
Mm.
I think the animist cultures are going to be the cockroaches that exist after we blow ourselves up. And I'm not calling people cockroaches. I'm just saying, they have the lasting power, because they're not involved in the way that we live, so they can survive a post-apocalyptic world.
It's amazing you say that, because about 10 minutes ago or something in the conversation, I almost asked you, so are these animists going to survive when the rest of us have blown ourselves up? Because
It's
that
going to
was,
be,
it seemed to be
yeah,
the natural consequence.
it's going to be the animist and the Amish. That's left.
Well, that'll be an interesting comedy show. The animists and the Amish. Yeah. Wow. So what kind of people are you working with now?
Oh, so most of my clients are what I call the wounded well. So they're functional people. They're not people in a psychiatric hospital, for example. They're people who have lives, they have jobs, and to look at them, you wouldn't know that there's anything going on. But they feel a disconnect in their soul, and they're looking for something beyond medication. They want to get the root cause. They want to be well. And by that, I don't mean symptom free, I mean joyous and, led by their hearts. They want to be deeply connected. And so they're willing to do more than just a little bit to be like, okay, it's better now. We're not talking about that, so it's all better. They really want to be well. And I love working with those kinds of people.
Yeah. So let's say I was a wounded well person. Wounded well person who doesn't know what to call themselves, who turned up to work with you. What kind of processes or journey might I expect in our work together?
So it's kind of going back to like my mom when she let me do what I wanted to do and only helped me when I needed to. It's more like that. It's more like coaching. And in the beginning I'm going to be leading you because obviously you don't know much about wellness. And then as we go along, it's going to be you're leading me. So I'm looking for what do you need? What I'm looking for you to tell me what it is that you need in this moment. Because if you get that, then you're going to be invested. You'll be like, oh, okay, so that's better. And I've seen how this works. Now I'm curious about that. But for a lot of people, before they can even do that, we have to work on the trauma because they're not curious. They're just in pain and they have to get out of pain first. But I really like working with the people who are ready to lead themselves and are like, well, I would like to experience this. How can I get there? All right, let's go. That's what I really love.
Beautiful. So dealing with the trauma is kind of an early thing that needs to be done to help them get to a place where they're then leading themselves and leading it
Yes.
in the work.
Yes. Uh-huh.
That makes perfect sense
Yeah.
to me. Amazing. So when you're helping people with the trauma, um, how do you tend to approach that with people?
From the ground up. So we have to have a foundation. So that's going to mean for a lot of people that they need a lot of information. So I'm going to be teaching them about trauma, how it affects the body. A lot of my clients are, because they're wounded well, they have figured out how to do things, so they're heady. They need information. They don't trust the body. They don't want to do the body. They trust the mind. They trust processes. So I'm going to give them that so that they feel safe enough then to do the body work and to learn how to be safe in their body, to be emotionally intelligent, so they can bring their whole selves to whatever comes next. Because when you're coping, if you're all mental, for example, then you're not all there. You have all these other things that are untapped and unskilled, and so you're only going to get so far. And not everybody is that client, but most of mine are.
Yeah. So again, you're creating a safe container for them
Yes, yes,
within which they can relax.
yes. Got to
And
have that. Yeah, you can't be intuitive if you're tense.
yeah, yeah. I love that. Several times in the conversation, there's been this emphasis on having a safe container,
Mhm,
um, or a protection. And if they
mhm.
haven't got their protection, they can borrow yours. So it's like you're kind of giving them what they need so that they can then develop it for themselves
Yes,
in a safe place.
yes.
It feels very reassuring listening to it. It feels like a very reassuring experience. But it also feels like you're not going to be afraid to go into the muck with them when that's required.
I like that, really. I think not a lot of people do, because it's scary. And if you're not real grounded, then you'll take on their feelings and it's scary for you too. It could be re-traumatizing for you. But I do like it. I'm Scorpio rising, so I kind of get that naturally. So, I'm there for the ride.
Amazing. Well, I love the sound of it. It sounds like your clients are very, very fortunate
Well, thank
to
you.
work with you. Do you work just one to one or in groups or both or?
I do some limited group work. It's mostly one to one. I love working with groups. It's just kind of hard to manage to get them all together at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of people obviously listening to this conversation that we're having, and some of those people listening are going to be thinking, "Well, this is really, really interesting," and I can see how Laura is kind of embodying what she's embodying in her work. And some people are going to be asking themselves, "Well, how could I embody more of this myself in my work?" So let's say someone is, a teacher, a parent, a leader, a spiritual mentor, or just someone who wants to really be a helpful presence in their own lives. Um, is there anything that you could share with those sorts of people in regard to how they can begin to bring some of what you're talking about more into and integrate into with what they're already doing?
The first thing I would say is to deal with the trauma Everybody has something, and because that's going to keep you from being open-hearted and curious. And you have to have that in order to tap in and to feel that connection. And then after that, or maybe while you're doing that, I would learn mindfulness. It's really easy to learn. It's just about being in the present moment, and then whatever you're doing, have a practice every day where you take time out for yourself and do that. It could be in the shower. It doesn't take any extra time. You're gonna shower anyway. Just have a really mindful shower and be grateful to the water. Maybe think about what this water is doing for you. Or maybe you have a moment with a cup of tea in the morning as you sit out on the deck and watch the sun come up. Have that be grateful of the herbs that are in your cup, of the sun coming up, just a moment. And if you do that long enough, then that feeling stays with you, and then you start to see it in other things. I mean, it could be just you catch a glimpse of a leaf swirling in the wind down the street, and you're just like, oh, and it says so much more to you than just that moment, because the universe is always talking to us, but we're not listening. And so if you catch these moments all the time, that certainty is going to grow within you, and you're going to start to feel a part of it, but you have to be an active participant. So it doesn't take a lot. I'd see people that are offering spiritual classes, and I'm like, I don't understand this, because it's not something that really can be taught. It has to be experienced. Now, the foundational piece to get you there, I can see teaching that. But how to do it, you just have to do it. My mom didn't sit me down and say, "Okay, now this is what you do." It wasn't like a Bible class. It was just watching her, watching how she moved in the world and still moves in the world.
Beautiful. I love that. Thank you so much. What you've shared today has been very, very expansive and opening, and encouraging. There's this lovely sort of sense of joy in life that you're
Mm.
expressing, which I really appreciate. And I do feel that that is the way for us.
Yeah,
And I love this sense that you're speaking about, that everything is sacred,
absolutely.
everything is conscious.
Yeah,
That's just such a respectful and appreciative and receptive perspective, isn't it?
yeah.
So and I find that really beautiful. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, I think that the world loves us, and if we love it back, then it just comes back to us. So, why be disconnected and why be ugly? We can make this a beautiful life, because life is hard.
Yeah. So we talked about quite a lot today.
We did.
I knew this was going to be fascinating. Um, has there been a favorite part of our conversation for you today?
You? You've been my favorite part. I love your open curiosity. I love the daffodils. I think, yeah, when you have an exchange with people, I think if you're with them, then that is the most important part. It's not what you're doing, it's not how you're spending the time, it's just the exchange of energy between two people. So thank you.
Well, thank you as well. It's been a beautiful experience for me also. So, everybody, thank you so much for watching and listening. And do go and check out Laura's work at Linktree, which has got a dot in between the R and the first E, /Laura Giles. And do go and check out her work. Check out the rest of my episodes on truthandtranscendence.com, and check out my other work on beingspace.world. So, Laura Giles, thank you again so much for coming on the show.
Thank you. Bye-bye.